The Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have become to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, and we will not hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is us, for the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we are highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. The Gettysburg Address is a speech given by Abraham Lincoln in November 19, 1863. It was presented on the battlefield near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, after the Civil War. Lincoln starts his speech by saying that a long time ago all men were created equal. I think he says this because the men fighting think they need to fight when in reality all people are equal and we are supposed to be a country as a whole, and we shouldn't be fighting in a civil war. He states that the reason for his speech is dedicated to all the men who were a part of the Civil War. Lincoln says that we need to honor the devotion of the dead and the living from the Civil War. These men, living and dead, devoted their lives for their people. He also says that the people who died did not die in vain and they will not perish from the earth. The soldiers will always be remembered for their courage and strength. He means that these people will always be remembered by what they did, and the nation will always honor and remember them. It has been said that Lincoln's speech was the greatest speech ever given. They say this because back then, most speakers who focused on having an hour longer speech. Lincoln's speech was 2 minutes long. In just these short 2 minutes, he gave a wonderful, mesmerizing speech that went down in history as the greatest ever. His speech is short and to the point. Abraham Lincoln was a great president and speaker. I truly think that he had the soldiers' best interests in heart while he gave his speech. Because of Abraham Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address, the men who were involved in the Civil War will always be remembered and honored by fellow people for centuries to come. I think this is very important because when people learn about the Civil War, they will know not to repeat history and be thankful for those who fought in the Civil War.